My name is Kenneth Deere. My English name, Zahayandu, is my name in my language. It means the fire still burns. I'm a Mohawk and a Bear Clan, and I live in Kahnawake in Mohawk territory on the Canadian side of North America, or Turtle Island. Well, this year has been a long time in making. It's the 100th anniversary of our Cayuga chief, Descahe, who came to the League of Nations in 1923, and where he tried to address the League of Nations, and where he was refused. The League of Nations refused to listen to him, and he applied twice to be able to speak, but he was denied, and his struggle to be recognized by an international body has been symbolic of the struggle of Indigenous peoples for the last 100 years. And so this 100th anniversary of Chief Descahe symbolizes that struggle. So that's important that we commemorate this 100 years, because we're trying to tell the United Nations we don't want to wait another 100 years for us to be recognized as governments here in the world. That even today in the United Nations, Indigenous governments cannot speak as governments. Either you're a member state or you're an NGO, a non-governmental organization. But we, as Indigenous people, we have governments. We have our own governments, and we should be able to have a status in the UN that reflects that, and we should be able to have access to the activities in the UN like any other permanent observer status. So this has been the struggle, and what people in the world know as the Iroquois Confederacy, or the Six Nations Confederacy in English, we call it the Haudenosaunee, and the Haudenosaunee means people of the Longhouse, because our traditional dwellings was a longhouse, and also symbolically. Our confederation of Six Nations, from east to west, we formed one large longhouse, and we all live in that longhouse, all the way from New York's Vermont, all the way to Pennsylvania, including parts of Quebec and Ontario in Canada. So this is the land of the people of the Longhouse, the Haudenosaunee. And at first we were 5 nations, from east to west: the Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuga, and Seneca. And in the 1700s, the Tuscarora were adopted, that came up from the Carolinas. And this is the confederacy that the Europeans met when they came here, and who the French called the Iroquois. And so we're trying to reclaim our name, and trying to get rid of the word Iroquois and call ourselves, people should know us as the Haudenosaunee. We had a very sophisticated civilization. We were a civilization of people. We have a constitution that predates European contact. It was given to us by what we call the peacemaker, a man who came to us because we were warring people. He taught us the ways of peace. He taught us that if you want to stop killing each other, stop hating each other, you got to follow these very simple rules. He says, first of all, you bury your weapons of war in the ground, and not use weapons of war with one another. And also with those weapons, you bury your hatred, your thirst for revenge, your biases and your discrimination, your personalities. You bury that in the ground, and then you only use good words with one another, words that don't cut or hurt. You don't want to use words to bring up the old anger and hatred. So you only use words that compliment each other, and then in your discussion you'll use reason and what we call a good mind, meaning righteousness and morality in your discussions. And then when you make a decision, you make a decision by consensus. You talk and you talk and you talk until you can all agree. And then once you have consensus, then you can move forward together and then you have peace. So these are the ways of peace that created our confederacy, and it made it a strong federation of nations and also a strong military power at the same time. So this is what the Europeans ran into when they came here. So because of this Constitution and the teachings in this Constitution, which includes our the role of the men, the role of the chiefs, the role of the women, the clan mothers. It was a matrilineal society. It was the mothers that carried the clans, and it's the women that appointed the chiefs, and the women could take away a chief as well, and the men did the diplomacy. They did the hunting and the fishing and they did the warfare as well. And the women took care of the community, and they took care of the planting and the harvesting along with the men. So we had this relationship where there's a role for the men and there's a role for the women, and they were both equal, had separate responsibilities. And also in our Constitution, it also has our ceremonial cycle. Our spirituality was included in this, and our Constitution is represented by a tree. When the peacemaker put the weapons in the ground, he planted a tree on top of it, and the tree was an eastern white pine. So that eastern white pine is a symbol of our confederacy, and the symbol of the ways of peace. So even though that we have been invaded by Europeans for 500 years, because of this Constitution and strong teachings, which we hand down, by oral tradition from generation to generation to generation, and the women carrying the clans, and the women appointing chiefs. After chiefs pass away, they appoint another chief, and then another chief. So we were able to carry on this tradition for centuries. And because of this strong, just Constitution that we have, we are able to survive, make it survive up until today. It makes us a very strong people, and we feel very strongly about our who we are, and also about our sovereignty. That we've never given away our sovereignty to anybody. We have treaties with foreign nations, with France and with Britain and with the Netherlands and with the United States. So we have only nations make treaties. So and we believe in these treaties. So so all of these things give us a sense of strength and a strong self-identity, which survived the genocidal policies of the governments of Canada and the United States. It's these teachings that made us survive. I think the challenges we have is really demonstrated by Chief Discahe. When the League wouldn't let him speak in 1923, and today Discahe still cannot speak at the UN. He's here in the building in the United Nations, but he will not speak on the floor until he's recognized as a government. So we continue to believe that we are a sovereign people, and that the United Nations is not giving us a just recognition of our people. So that relationship we have is similar in some ways to its states. We have a relationship with Canada, and we have a relationship with the United States, but it's very, very tenuous. The Canadian government and the American government tried to destroy the Haudenosaunee, and by taking the power away from the women and making it from a matrilineal society to a patrilineal society, which is with the help of religions, also helped them to do that, and they took away our power by imposing elected systems, and the government only recognizes the elected governments, and whereas the true governments we're still here, but they don't want to recognize us. So that's sort of similar to the United Nations. They recognize their own people, the other nation states, but they don't want to recognize indigenous states, indigenous peoples with their own sovereignty, and their own territory and their own rights. So that similarity is still there. However, we believe in diplomacy. We believe in the ways of peace. We're not declaring war on everybody. And we believe in that nation-to-nation relationship, the treaty relationship. We still believe in that. So when we come here to the United Nations and to Geneva, with the city of Geneva and the state of Switzerland, we believe in that nation-to-nation relationship, which is symbolized by the two-row wampum, where the two-row wampum is a belt of beads with two purple rows and white on the white background, and one purple row is the Europeans with their ship with sails, and in that ship they have their people, their goods, their spiritual, their religion in that ship, and the other purple row is our canoe with our people and our goods, our laws, and our spirituality, and the white background is the river of life. So the belt symbolizes the ship with sails, and the canoe will go down the river of life side by side, parallel to one another, not interfering with each other, and go on forever. And so that's that relationship, that two-role relationship, that nation-to-nation relationship that we believe in today. We still believe that's the future, or that's the past and also the future of the relationship between ourselves and other nations. And we treat this, when we come to the UN, we also look at that the same way. We come here as equals. We look at ourselves as equals here, and we're treated unequally. However, we are still here seeking the recognition of our equality. For everybody, I think right now, at this moment, I think humanity is in crisis. I think that the climate change is upon us, and it's just beginning, and it may get worse. And we have to do everything we can to try to mitigate climate change, and all the profits and all the soft life that the people have been experiencing, especially in the developed world, that's going to end soon, and now they're going to have to suffer for the luxury that they've been practicing up until now. And it's not necessary that everybody has to die. I think, but there has to be all of humanity together have to be able to understand the suffering of others, and also to comfort them, and they have to allow climate refugees, because there's resistance to that right now in the developed world, and the climate refugees are their fault, so they has to open their doors wider for people who are suffering in the world where climate is making life unlivable. And so my advice to the world is that to be a little less strict with your borders, and a bit more generous with with what you have to share with others. Otherwise, humanity there'll be so much suffering, too much suffering, and there will be war, and there will be violence, because people will be so desperate to live, to eat, and to breathe, and to have water, that they will have to get violent in order to get that, and you don't want that. So, be a bit more generous and a bit more wise about using your resources, and do the best you can to mitigate climate change.